Chapter's Christine Pennington, your Fun Stampers Journey Coach. I'm also known as Pennington Creates on Instagram and Facebook. Today I'm stopping by to show you a card that I recently made. I'm making these for our leadership conference in Vegas this coming week, as I will be attending the Manager's Escape event, and we're doing a swap. So this is the card that I made. To make this card, I used stamp set Peach Blossom, and I also used word block. And for this set, I cut this stamp apart because I only wanted to use the Dream Big on my card and not the Work Hard Dream Big. So don't be afraid to cut your stamps. Alright, so bring this over so you kind of see what I'm working on. The first thing you're going to want to do is take your flower stamp along with our clear pigment ink. Actually, let me back up. I have one step I forgot. Using our PanPastel, the Colorless blender, I'm going to apply that with one of my soft tool brushes, or foam fingers, I guess is what it's called. And I'm applying a layer of it to my cardstock. And what this does, it creates a resist. So when you put your embossing powder on, it will only stick to the area that you inked on. So now I'm ready to go ahead and stamp up or ink up my this is a newer pad, so it's very sticky. And so now I can go ahead and stamp my flower, applying a fair amount of pressure to get all of the ink on there. And because it's clear, you don't really see what I've done yet. And then with my gold embossing powder, I actually keep my powders in these cute little containers and have a spoon with these clips. I learned this tip from Jennifer McGuire a long time ago, and I find it just works well for me. And so let me go ahead and apply the embossing powder to all of my image, making sure I get all of the areas. Oops, looks like there's a spot right here. Alright, so let me set this aside. Now, recently I learned this new trick that I'm going to share with you guys. I had mentioned to one of my friends when I was on the phone that I was working on embossing, and I just said, after all these years you would think I would know how to emboss, but they always turn out terrible. And she said, have you ever tried heating it from behind instead of on the front? I said no, and she said try it, I bet you'll like it. And so what she means by that is normally I would heat this up from the front, but instead, actually I don't even have it plugged in, so I'm not even going to do it. For sake of time, I would heat the back side of it instead of the front, and it absolutely worked. I thought it was crazy, who knew, but it makes a perfect embossed image every single time. So here's one that I had done ahead of time, and as you can see, it's perfect. There's no imperfections at all. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my PanPastels, and for the flower I use Sweet Berry and Pineapple Smoothie. Now I am using a soft tool that the PanPastel company also makes. We don't currently carry these at Fun Stampers Journey. It is on my wish list. That may be something we could carry in the future. So pick up some of your color, and then I applied my PanPastel to my petals, but I didn't go all the way up to the edge of my petals over here. I left them white for now. And I'll just do a few of the petals here. I don't need to do all of this for you guys. And then same thing as we teach with our foam fingers and our soft tools and just go ahead and clean it off on a scrap, and then you can go over to the other color. And for the pineapple smoothie, I applied it to the edges of my petal. I should say petals because there are more than one petals on this beautiful flower. And then I also applied it to the middle. Again, I won't do the whole flower right now. Now because it's embossed, what I find is if I kind of clean this off and I go across it lightly, it will clean up the pan pastel that's kind of stuck to the top. Now you can use a Kleenex, preferably one without the lotions, to wipe off your embossed areas to clean the pan pastels off. So now, in looking at, let me set those aside. In looking at my flower here, you can see a huge difference between my card and the flower. And right now, it's bright and it's not blended very well. And so what I did is I took my Colorless blender and I went in there and I started to blend out between the two colors, because there is a big difference between the sweet berry and the pineapple smoothie. But I thought this would make, it's almost like a Hawaiian looking color flower. At least from what I've seen. I've never been there. Maybe someday. So again, I'm just going to show you on these few petals that when you take your Colorless blender in there, it really tones down the color some, and then it blends those harsh lines between colors. Now don't forget, you can take any white eraser if you make a mistake or smudge it, like right here. I must have had some on my finger. I wouldn't really need to do this because I'm going to actually cut out the flower with my scissors. We do have a die cut, but I didn't want any white edge on my flower, so I hand cut all of my flowers out to make my cards. Now I also did the same technique with the Colorless blender, first on my cardstock, and I stamped with a clear pigment ink my leaves, put the gold embossing powder on, heated it from behind, and if you look really closely, there is not an imperfection at all on this piece here. So my OCD goes into overdrive on some things, and this is something that makes me very happy. Alright, so let me set that aside and go back to my card to point out a few things. I matted the leaves with our watermelon fusion in our black licorice ink. I stamped our sentiment Dream Big with our black licorice ink. On my flower, I also applied some Journey Glaze and our sparkle dust to the center of my flower. I thought that that just really made that flower pop. And the last thing I did, of course, which I do to most of my cards now, is I did bubblegum silk and silver silk. Now, I will be doing a video soon on silks to show some tips and techniques on how to use those, as I know some people struggle, and I used to struggle, and I have a few tips for you on how to apply your silk a little easier. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed my quick video. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me.